See him a beast when he hear that sound like yeah, beat on the beat when he hear that sound like woo. Yeah, bitch on the champ, only me one round like yeah, me, I'm a G-Ring.
22-5 as a professional fighter and undefeated 1-0 in the UFC. Please welcome La Mangosta, Victor Henry. Victor, my man, thank you so much for your time. How you doing?
I'm chilling, bro. Just being skinny. I'm losing weight and cutting weight. It sucks, but we just got back from the PI, and it was funny because they were actually giving people tours over there, and I'm like, dang, like, and I'm over there giving everybody like a stink face and everything. All the fighters were trying to seem intense, and I'm over there like picking my nose and letting them know that all the fighters are not these gorillas, and and then there's me.
Now, you guys are great people, but I mean, that's also a part of the reason I'm very appreciative for your time, because I know you're midweight cut. I know how much that freaking sucks from wrestling. How is that going for you? You looking good for Friday?
Yeah, I mean, I've never missed weight, even in times where I've had, certain struggles. I remember those once where, we had a missed flight to Japan, and then we were going over the next day, and then it was 6 hours stuck on the tarmac, and then another 3 hours stuck on the tarmac, and then it was for one of my Ryzen fights, and then I told them, listen, no, it was for a Pancras fight, and we were telling the airline, I was like, listen, man, like, there's no way I cannot be in the air tonight.
Yeah.
And sure enough, like, I'm cutting weight in China for a layover into Japan. So we flew to China, and then we flew to Japan, and I'm cutting weight the entire time. The flight there, of course, there's water retention in the sky, and then I'm cutting weight in the in the Chinese airport, and people were looking at me like I'm a weirdo.
Yeah. And
then of course another couple hours to Japan, and then having to cut right away when you get there, and then finally made it, barely on the dot, but I made it. So, cutting weight is never fun. It's never easy.
No.
But I mean, it's nowhere near as bad as some other people where they just get in there and they start struggling. But I'm not a big weight cutter. I don't cut from like 160. I don't do that. So
okay. What do you, what do you walk around at, like 155, 150?
Yeah, something like that. I actually did get pretty big for this camp, only because I was lifting prior.
Okay.
But it's still not like up in the 65s, 60s,
right.
Like, no, as soon as I started dieting, it started coming down pretty quick.
Good, man. Good, man. Good to hear. And dude, yeah, you fight all over the world. So cutting weight in China, that's a good story, dude. So I have to be honest with you. I have a story time right off the bat. I have a confession to make, sir. Obviously your UFC debut, you fought Raoni Barcelos, right? You come in as this plus 330 underdog. I'm not super into like MMA outside of the UFC to that point yet. So I wasn't really aware who you were. I just knew who Barcelos was. I'm also, a little bit of a sports gambler. So people follow my bets on Twitter, stuff like that. So, confession, I bet on Barcelos. Nothing crazy. I'm not a rich man. Throw $10 down on him or whatever. But I just have to tell you, that was probably the best money I have ever lost. You gained such a fan in me that night, dude. I was so impressed by your performance going in there, beating Barcelos, one of the best strikers, in my opinion, in bantamweight in the UFC, at his own game on the feet for all 3 rounds. I was blown away, sir. So props to you. Such a hard UFC debut, man. They fed you to the wolves, as they say. So tell me a little bit about that fight, dude.
Well, I mean, when I first initially got the call, I was eating Korean barbecue, and they were like, "Bro, you want to fight in the UFC in 2 weeks?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then, I was supposed to originally fight him in December last year, and then at the time, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, they required 3 COVID tests. I passed the first 2, and then on the third one, right after the weight cut, which, I mean, assholes, they want you to make weight and then they want you to test. Like, okay, test me first. That way I don't have to go through this misery.
Yeah.
But anyways, the very last test is the one that I was positive for. So that kind of sucked. And then, of course, going back home, even though I knew it was a false, I figured it was a false positive.
Sure.
I still didn't want to run the risk and go to the gym and possibly get somebody else sick, especially if they got fights. So I quarantined for the couple weeks, and then when I started going back, of course, Josh hits me up. He goes, "Hey, UFC wants you to fight Barcelos again in a couple weeks here in Anaheim." I was like, "All right,
notice,
let's go." And was good that I fought somebody of of his caliber, only because it would put me in talks for something right away. It
Right.
wouldn't be like, oh, hey, we're just gonna feed you to, Joe Schmo, who's never really been anywhere, but he's filling up undercards and
Yeah.
and whatever. But Barcelos, he has a name, he has clout behind him, and going in there and being able to perform against somebody of his caliber, it only goes to show that the top of the UFC isn't necessarily the top in the world.
Okay.
The top, if you take all the top 10, top 5 guys in every organization, there is going to be a lot of mix up. It's not like the top 5 in the UFC are just going to run through everybody in every organization. I mean,
True,
look what happened to Eddie Alvarez. As soon as he was released from the UFC, he went to ONE FC, and then he got knocked out.
Plenty of
So,
people in that boat. Yeah.
yeah. So I mean, there's the top athletes in the world are all over the world. There's some bad motherfuckers around. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm glad you got your opportunity, man. And as I said, you opened as a plus 330 dog in that fight. Interestingly enough, you opened as a minus 330 favorite in this fight. And, the big name got you another big name in Assuncao, but now you're the favorite in this fight. How does that feel to you? Such an odds flip like that. You feel like you finally got some respect, and idiots like myself who doubted you the first time are now completely on board?
No, I mean, I even said it after my my last interview, where I felt that people who are UFC fans, it's okay to be UFC fans, but don't consider yourself an MMA fan if you're
Right.
just a UFC fan.
Yeah.
Because if you're only watching UFC, you're doing yourself a disservice, because there's crazy fights all over the world and all over in every promotion, even down to your local cards.
Yeah.
And then you have these media guys that claim to be MMA analysts or MMA media, and then all they cover is UFC guys.
Yeah.
Oh, top 15 of this welterweight division buys a new car. Like, who cares, bro? Like, you have all sorts of all these events throwing all sorts of all promotions throwing all sorts of events. ONE FC throwing kickboxing, Muay Thai, and even grappling tournaments.
Yeah.
I do think that UFC is the gold standard when it comes to promotion.
Sure.
But there's so much to see everywhere. But fighting a guy like Assuncao is, I don't know what the UFC is wanting as far as my name goes, but I do know that that they do expect an exciting fight out of me, only because of my last fight. They want to continue building that. Being on the minus side of the odds this time, it doesn't bother me. I mean, the one thing that's a constant when it comes to fighting is the guy across from you is going to try to punch you in the face.
Sure.
Everything else always changes. The venue, the size of the cage, the betting odds, how many people watch, all those things are things that you can't even control. Yeah. So why even think about those things?
Yeah, completely true. That's just, for the gamblers and stuff. But I like the matchup in general, man. And like, going back to what you said real quick about the promotions, that's a great point, because fighters like you that come into the UFC and get new eyes on them, they introduce people to, CFFC, KOTC, ONE, all these other promotions. So hats off for you for doing that too. I'm sure you fought all over the world in many different promotions. I'm sure a lot of people are now watching a lot of different promotions because of fighters like yourself. So that's a great point, man.
Yeah, well, I hope they are, because as a fighter, I have to keep my eyes on that too.
Yeah.
Because my next opponent might not be, top 15. My next opponent, my next opponent might not be top 15 in the UFC. My next opponent might be the champion of another organization.
Sure.
So, and that is another dilemma, because I have to keep, this is a hard sport where you got to keep your eyes everywhere all the time, because somebody's coming to take your spot.
Yeah. It's a crazy sport. There's so much talent all over the world, down to the regional scene. It's amazing. So back to your fight this weekend against Assuncao. What are your thoughts on him as an opponent stylistically? How do you feel you guys match up?
I think we matched up real well, man. I mean, we both have a lot of experience between us. I do believe that he has, of course, he has power in his hands. I mean, he's a short guy, but you see his build. he's going to be strong. He's going to be powerful. I don't think he's in his physical prime anymore, but I have to assume that he knows what position he's in with his recent losses. And, even him changing camps to train over at Extreme Couture shows to me that he's still thinking and still trying to improve in his game itself, So I have to be ready for, is he going to come out trying to swing big and just knock my head off? Or is he going to come out just trying to press me up against the cage and wrestle me, have a boring fight just so he can get that win and stay in the UFC?
Yeah.
I really don't know, and that's what's kind of fun about this fight is that it's not something like, oh, if you go up against Israel Adesanya, you know exactly what he's going to do.
Right.
But in this case, it's not that at all. I don't know what Assuncao is going to do, but so I had we have to prepare for everything.
Did you were you retraining at CMMA or UWF or a little bit of both for this fight?
So UWF USA is actually just a team that operates, that operates under Josh Barnett.
Yeah.
But Josh Barnett works closely with Chad George over at CMMA, and it's basically one team.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, when we go out, we represent CMMA, we represent UWF USA. We all, I mean, it's all under the guidance of Chad George and Josh Barnett.
Great team over there. For the casuals, name drop some of your training partners and coaches. Obviously, Josh.
Yeah, Josh Barnett. We got Chad George, and it's funny because like a lot of this has been coming out a lot lately. That a lot of these coaches, they don't actually have fight experience themselves. They've either they either used to wrestle, or they've gotten a black belt, or they used to kickbox, and if they kickbox and they have fighting experience, cool. But then they didn't really fight MMA. We have a team of coaches that have actually fought in MMA. And they know what it's like to be in the wrestling room. They know also they've got black belts themselves. They've had kickboxing fights themselves. So you get a very unique perspective on the coaching style because they have been there themselves.
Yeah.
And, so there's that. Of course, as far as training partners, we got Bruno Salza, who's a Machida karate guy. He's going to be competing at Combat Karate. We have Weber Almeida, who's he's a standout over in Bellator, and we have Ozzy Diaz, and he's the current LFA champion.
Yep.
We have a number of guys.
Bunch of killers in that gym, man. It's great team right there. So, like, I don't know. I know the last fight was short notice. I assume you're kind of always training, but did having like a full camp scheduled for the same fighter the whole time, was that like nice compared to your debut? Are you going to have any advantages from that?
You know what? I kind of don't like it.
Really?
This 8-week training camp is bullcrap, man. It's a very long training camp. I'm used to just 4 weeks. I think the most I had up until this point was like a 6-week camp.
Yeah.
And it was, even then it was like, well, we got to start going now and get, I was already in shape, but get in better shape and and go for it, right? But 8 weeks is, even though it's just obviously 2 more weeks, but 8 weeks is 2 months, man.
It's a long
time. And it's crazy because as fighters, we live our lives week by week. Well, round by round, training session by training session, but week by week, Monday's my MMA drilling, Tuesday is my grappling, Wednesday is my sparring, we kind of do that week by week, and all of a sudden 2 months are gone in the blink of an eye, and you're like, man, I just went through an 8-week training camp.
Yeah, that's rigorous.
It feels like really long when you're in the middle of it, but then here we are at fight week, and it's like, oh man, that passed by really fast.
Yeah.
But that's just the way it is. Having an 8-week camp is kind of brutal, but it's good. I mean, I expect that I'm going to be in pretty good shape. I hope so. Yeah. I trained for it, so I don't know if I'm going to set another record, but we'll see.
I'm super excited to see what a full grueling 8-week camp did for you, man. Can't wait for Saturday night. If you're not one to look into the future, tell me to buzz off, but I want to look ahead a little bit here. Do you have anyone in mind you'd like to fight? Not necessarily next, but just in your UFC career. I'm not sure how many fight contract you have.
Mm-hmm. I'm not really here to call people out. I don't make a business of calling people out. I make a business of punching them in the face. So, you put them in front of me, then yeah, let's go. There's a number of fighters that I think that I match up well against, and there's a number of fighters that I think that would give me a very hard time.
Yeah.
The fighters that I match up well against, I don't view them as possible paychecks. I view them as, of course, future opponents. The people that would give me a hard time, stylistically, I look at them as good learning opportunities, and a chance to go out there and improve myself.
Yeah.
So shit, these hands are ready to eat for everybody, bro.
Love that, bro. Love that. How many fight contract do you have? How many people are we gonna get to see you beat up?
So I have a 4-fight contract, and this will be my second. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And hey, seems like you're gonna keep rolling again another one. So
Yeah,
awesome
I mean, I hope I can get more. I mean, if after my third or fourth fight, hopefully we could renegotiate and get some more fights in there, man.
Well, I mean, dude, like a win against Assuncao after beating Barcelos the way you did, like you got to get a ranked opponent next, right?
So we'll see. The funny part is this: Sean O'Malley, he has his haters, and he has, of course, the people that love him.
Yeah.
But he's totally right in the fact that the UFC is going to pay you the same if they give you a top 5 guy or if they give you number 25. They're going to pay you the same according to your contract. However, there is the clout that comes with, hey, you're beating a top guy. Well, all of a sudden the promotion is putting more money into you. And if they're putting more money into you, then that means you're going to get residual money from sponsors, from other people giving you opportunities. And, this is outside of fighting, but wealth isn't necessarily always a monetary thing. Sometimes it's the things that you don't have to spend money on, like just as simple things as going to, this happened after my last fight where I went somewhere to eat and some guy was like, "Oh, hey, you found the UFC card. Don't worry about it. This meal's on me." Ooh. Yeah. So,
sick.
yeah. And it's like, "Oh, well, yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it. At least let me tip, oh, no, don't worry about it." I was like, "Well, how about your servers? Let them take this, whatever." But, wealth is crazy like that because, again, it's not always about, the money you're making. It's also about the money you're saving and the opportunities that are being handed to you through free food or free stuff or, just things like that you never really thought of.
Yeah. And I mean, Kevin Holland's big on that too, like for better or worse. UFC fighting big promotions, it's more than just getting in the cage and fighting. You got to like sell yourself and do the diligence outside of the cage too. And it's good that you have that like attention and awareness that you're going to have to do that because, just being on Twitter all week, your name's all over the place. You're doing a good job of it.
Yeah, I'm doing all right.
Doing all right. Like you said, the fists do the talking.
Yeah.
So, 2023 coming up, are you thinking maybe another, depending obviously how this weekend goes, assuming it goes well, do you think you're going to get another fight in 2022 or do you have like big plans for 2023?
You know what? If I come out this fight, like I want, then I can see myself fighting again in 2022.
Love it, dude. There's some great cards to cap the year off too, man.
Yeah, I even thought about, if this fight goes, the way I want it to, then what I want to do is I want to stay in relative fight shape. That way I can just step in on a short notice fight because, things are happening all the time and, people need opponents.
Matchmakers probably love you, dude. That's music to their ears. So UFC 280 coming up next weekend after your guys' card. Bantamweight, your division title on the line. TJ Dillashaw going up against Aljamain Sterling. Who you got there?
I think Sterling's going to take it. I think, TJ moves a lot. It's funny because they both fight at the relative same range, which is very far away.
Yeah.
TJ, I think, does a better job of clearing the distance with strikes and everything. But I think Funkmaster has more tools to stifle that kind of movement because he can make a fight boring.
Yes.
Not in the sense it was like, oh man, I just want to turn off the TV and go hang myself. But he can make a fight very slow for the other person, which can be frustrating.
Yeah.
Especially if you're a guy like TJ Dillashaw, where you're moving, hitting, moving, and then hit to takedown, and moving, just like he did with Henry Morale.
Yeah.
So I think Funkmaster has the tools to slow TJ down, either with range striking or engaging in the wrestling when it is wrestling and just sticking onto him and just making it slow. And, I think Aljamain Sterling is just a naturally bigger guy. And it's a wonder that he gets up to 170, then down to 35. I mean, that's crazy. And
freaking huge.
And able to perform for 5 rounds. I mean, that just only goes to show that whoever his dietitian is doing a good job, and whoever his coaching staff is they're doing a good job. And and also him, he's probably a really gifted athlete. So
Yeah.
I think Aljamain Sterling, I think he takes that.
I agree with you, man. And his team over at Serra-Longo, they're no joke over in New York. So and Alja's been saying it all week. He's like, I'm going to take his back. I'm going to take his back. So Alja likes to be a backpack. I'm excited for that fight, though. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, I mean, the way he did it to Peter Yan, that was, and just, okay, I got his back, and I'm just going to hang on.
Smiling, yeah.
And for 3 minutes of a fight, like I said, he can make it boring, but he can make it also very frustrating for the other fighter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good analysis. Love that right there. So something I found interesting about you, obviously, I love your nickname, La Mangosta, the mongoose, and I believe Josh Barnett gave that to you. I heard that story in one of your interviews in the past. You also mentioned in the interview that, you have Mexican heritage. And the interesting thing to me is that you said you don't feel like a lot of people know this about you. You feel like not enough people know that you're half Mexican. Why do you think that is? Any particular reason?
100%, because I'm white. I'm about as white as you and Josh, man. I mean, it is what it is that way, because also the way I speak, it's funny because sometimes when I speak, because I'm from Southgate, California, which is it's a small suburb of LA,
Okay.
Obviously south of LA. But growing up, that's all that was around me, Mexicans and kids from Compton, black kids and Mexicans, and that's just the way I grew up. But when I finally ventured outside of Southgate, and just the way people were talking, and I had to adjust my vocabulary so I can communicate with people better. But sometimes when I meet with people from Southgate, it comes out, hey man, hey, when we're gonna go over to the Piyuyo way, and then we're gonna go eat, and then hey, what about the guy from, what's his name, that kind of stuff comes out, so, but that's just it's like accents that come out,
Sure.
But yeah, just a lot of people don't know that about me, because, well, it's not like it's advertised, and people just see my name. What's La Mangosta? And then they realize, oh, it's actually a nickname in Spanish, La Mangosta, which is the mongoose. And it's just a lot of times people just have to talk to me. Even this one guy over at my work, he goes, "Hey, you're from Southgate?" And I was like, "A huevo," like, yeah, I'm from Southgate. And he goes, "What part?" Like, kind of trying to test me. I told him where I was from, and he goes, "Hey, bro, check it. I'm from up the street." And I was like, I've been there. He goes, "How long you been there?" And I was like, oh, and I started naming off businesses that used to be there that aren't there anymore. He goes, "Bro, I remember that. Hey, recuerdas ese way?" And then we started talking about, people that used to live there. And, it's funny because, like, he has friends that, even though he was older than me, like, his friends were my friends' older brothers, or friends' older brothers, older brothers, and just generations ago. But not a lot of people know that I'm half Mexican, because, well, I don't look it. My mom's got strong genes, bro.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. In such a small world, but you know how commentators, like, it's very stereotypically that when Brandon Moreno fighting or Yair Rodriguez is fighting, Joe Rogan always hits him with the, "Oh, look at that Mexican heart, look at that Mexican chin." You 100% got that, dude. Like, it was, and you're in the Barcelos fight, it was 100% there.
Well, it's funny. So for the weigh-ins, for the official weigh-ins, for my last card in January, it's funny because, like, anytime a Mexican fighter would go on, you'd hear big claps and cheers, like, yeah, Brandon Moreno, yeah, 125, everybody was cheering. And then another Mexican fighter will go up, yeah, everybody was cheering. And then a Brazilian fighter will go up, and then you'd hear, like, the polite golf claps. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, oh, hey, yeah, good job. And then I go up there, and everybody's kind of like, oh, okay, yeah. And then I just scream out, "Arriba las Chivas," and everybody's looking at me like, what? They didn't even realize what I said. They were like, it's funny because a lot of times I'll speak Spanish to somebody, and they won't realize that I'm speaking Spanish to them. I'm like, yes, I know you know Spanish. I just heard you talking in Spanish.
That's crazy.
Like, let's just reciprocate this. And they don't know how to react. And I'm like, I'm speaking to you in Spanish. "Oh, mijo, sabes español?" And then we go from it. So, I had to kind of solidify my my Mexican heritage right there. You know, I'm also very American. You know, I was born here. You know,
Sure. Yeah.
but you know, my dad was an immigrant that came from Mexico, and he went through the whole thing, and you know, here I am.
Yeah, man. You got to get one of those half Mexican, half USA flags for the weigh-ins. That'll do it. Everybody will know.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think you can do that no more. I think the UFC has said no
Oh,
to no
that's
more.
not even at weigh-ins, really?
Yeah, I don't know about the weigh-ins part, but yeah, they say you can't walk out with flags anymore. So I was like, well,
I don't want to talk too much shit, but that's stupid.
yeah, well, somebody did something bad.
Someone must have done something. But
Yeah.
so Victor, before we get out of here, we've been talking fights for 25 minutes now. I'm sure that's all it's been on your mind for the past however many weeks, 8 weeks, I guess. Let me just ask you about you as a person, dude. Like when you're not training, when you're not fighting, what are your like hobbies, interests? What do you spend your time doing? Anything except fighting?
Hating people. No,
Explain a little bit.
no, you know, like, man, I mean, you know, I spent the majority of my adulthood now just being in the gym, being a part of a gym, being making sure I was able to get to training. You know, I broke up with my psycho ex-girlfriend when I was about 17, 18 years old. And I remember telling Josh, listen, man, because this is around this, I probably knew of Josh when I hit 20 years old, but at that point, from 18 to 25, I told myself I'm not gonna date. I'm just gonna worry about fighting. So that's all I really did, you know. Down to the point where I'm like, okay, well, I guess, well, I'm just gonna have this cheap phone. I'm gonna have this cheap insurance, and I'm just, you know, everything was for fighting. I just made sure that I had enough money to be able to pay my gym membership, my gym dues, and get gear, and that's it. Yeah, I didn't go out on dates. It was nothing, right? So, you know, after the age of 25, you know, Josh was like, bro, you need to start dating because there is a whole world out there of things you need to learn about, you know, about women that, you know, it's going to take a while. And I was like, fine, whatever. So I started dating girls or whatever.
Sure.
And, you know, eventually I got my girlfriend. I've been with her for 5 years. So it's like, okay, check. I don't need to do that crap no more. But, you know, I can focus on my other things. But, you know, other than training, man, I mean, I'm working on my Cutlass. I have a 1970 Cutlass that I'm working on. You know, we gutted that thing out. We took out the 350 motor, put in an old 455. We're not doing an LS swap on that. We're doing an old school motor, naturally aspirated.
Just over my head, but keep doing your thing.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I mean, we're keeping it old school on that car, but you know, I'm tinkering on that car, and you know, when I'm not doing those things, I'm, you know, pretty much eating. You know, hey, I call my friends, hey, nerds, let's go eat somewhere. Let's go eat this. Let's go eat that. You know, and I'm lucky my friends share my interest in food.
Yeah.
So we'll go rock it out. You know, let's go try this one Namibian restaurant over in Anaheim. Yeah, sure, let's go. You know.
Yeah.
So food, fast cars, and heavy metal, man. That's basically, outside of fighting, that's what it is.
What's your favorite metal band? You maybe a couple favorite. You don't have to give me one.
Okay. We got Watain.
Okay.
Of course, we got Gygax. They're a pretty awesome band. GYGAX.
What kind of metal is this? Just so I'm wondering.
So Gygax, they kind of sound like Thin Lizzy, but they have that old school, like old classic rock sound.
Love it.
But they're also like fans of Dungeons and Dragons. So if you like the Sword, then you'll be into them. If you ever heard of the Sword?
Yeah, I'm literally gonna write down Gygax right now because
GYGAX.
Got it.
So that's sick. I like bands like them. I like bands like the Sword, of course. You know, all the old school Iron Maiden. You know, Iron Maiden still has my favorite song, which is "Rime of the Ancient Mariner." You know, all those classic rock bands. Those are all my favorites. It's hard to choose.
Sounds like we would get along, man. That's it's pretty much right up my alley. Huge classic rock, and not as big a metalhead as you are, but I like metal music.
All you gotta do is grow the hair, bro. Look at that, right there.
I just got married. That's why it's short, man. My hair was like down to here for a little while, but nothing like that. You got me beat.
Yeah, it is pretty long, but you know what? It's longer only because it's curly.
Yeah. So whatever. You're gonna braid it up for the fight?
Yeah, they're gonna send somebody to my room so they can braid it for me.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So I know Power Rangers is what got you into MMA, you said in the past. Who's your favorite Power Ranger? Go.
Tommy, bro. Of course, he's the Green Ranger and the White Ranger. You know, it was funny because when I was growing up in my neighborhood, my mom didn't let me have control of my hair until I was 16.
Oh, wow.
So I had super long hair.
Yeah.
And everybody would mess with me.
Yeah.
But around that time, that's when Power Rangers was out. And who was the cool one with long hair? Tommy.
Yeah.
Also,
Tommy was man.
back when WWE was still WWF, who was the guys with long hair? Shawn Michaels, Bret the Hitman Hart, those guys, and they were an Ultimate Warrior, and those guys were the top of the top, right?
Yeah.
So it gave me some sort of hope about, hey, even if I have long hair, I could be cool too. So
long hair is cool, dude. Screw the haters. You kidding me? I had long hair.
Bro, yeah, but I got in fights because of that. These kids would come around and pick the rubber bands out of my hair, and then I would go home. And my mom's like, "Why? Where are you losing all these rubber bands? You know they ain't cheap.
Yeah.
They ain't free." And then I get picked on outside. Then I get, my mom would be giving me the 3rd degree. Then I got my butt spanked because you're losing rubber bands on purpose. Like, well, no, I'm not. And then all of a sudden, it turns into me getting in a fight, with these kids because they keep messing with me. And then I'm mad because like, oh yeah, you're messing with me. And then I'm gonna go home and then my mom's gonna mess with me. So it's like just festering all this, like just anger, like, just stop messing with me.
Well, they're not messing with you now, bro. I promise you that much.
And now, in fact, a lot of my old bullies are now my friends.
That's good though. That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe it's good. I don't know.
But it's mainly because I forced them to be my friends. It's like, listen, bro, you're gonna be my friend or else I'm gonna break your neck.
As you should. So Victor, before we get out of here, I just want to give you the opportunity. You're gonna have a lot of new eyes on you. You have a lot of supporters, family, friends, you name it. The mic is yours. What do you have to say?
Well, I was gonna say, what's better than running? I mean, what's worse than running with scissors, scissoring with the runs? You can follow me at Victor Henry MMA on Twitter and Instagram. I'd like to thank, of course, my sponsors, Fight Tech. They're hooking up my car. Gentlemen's Fight Club. That's these guys right now. Over out of Highland Park and Chinatown over at the East West shop. Of course, my coaches, Chad George, Josh Barnett, and all the guys over at CMMA and Gardena.
Yes, sir. And like I said, I'll link all your stuff below. Thank you for that quote and sound bit. That'll be trending, my good sir. But yeah, people, please do not miss it. This Saturday, October 15th, Victor Henry getting another W in the UFC, going to be 2-0 in the promotion if it goes my way, his way, and how I believe it's going to go down. Victor, thank you so much for your time, dude. Good luck to you this weekend. Genuinely, I cannot wait to see you fight and kick ass. All my buddies are going to be on my couch smoking, drinking, and watching you go to town, sir.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. When you get that dub, we'll do it again, okay?
Absolutely.